Good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen around the world. Welcome to the Monday night grumpy old Spurs. Where do we start? There's a newish stadium, promises of better days, dodgy home atmosphere, constant managerial changes, and a boring playing style. But enough about West Ham. We're going to be talking about Tottenham. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. Tonight, we have got a panel steeped in Tottenham experience and general savoir-faire. So it's a warm welcome back to Spurs Kings TV, very own Connor, who has been away in Tenerife. Did you manage to watch a game with the Tenerife Tottenham, Connor?
I did. I managed to watch the Villa game, so I got 2 hours peace from the kids, if you can call it peace, to watch us play Villa, which was good. But yeah, it was a nice time in Tenerife. Good to be back on Grumpy, and good to be back on with you, Dave, and good to be on with you, HG, as well.
Great to see you back. And now, I think to introduce, he's making his very first appearance on Grumpy Old Spurs, one of the OGs, as the cool kids would say of this channel. It is the Harlow Globetrotter. Sir, how are you?
OG is original Grumpster or what? Like, is that what I am?
Yeah, nice. I like that. Well done.
I am doing very, very well because it's half term, so I've got the week off, and I am doing absolutely nothing. It is glorious.
Fantastic. Now, in time-honoured tradition, I know that you've been on this channel since Bill Nick was the manager of Tottenham HG. It is your very first appearance on Grumpy Old Spurs, so we do ask two questions. What was your first game, and what was the first time Spurs ever made you grumpy? It could be anything. Over to you.
Okay, all right. So my first game was actually an away game. It was Forest away at the end of the 87 season, 86-87. Glenn Hoddle had scored his outrageous goal against Oxford the week before. I missed that one. But my uncle lived up in Nottingham, so I went to see Forest play Spurs. They beat us 2-0. And I don't remember a great deal about it, apart from the fact that Spurs lost. My first game at Spurs, we lost 4-0, which was a testimonial for Hoddle, probably, because it was against Monaco. That would have been about 8 months later, 9 months later. But yeah,
Right.
what made the most crestfallen I have ever been after a game? There's probably two I can think of. The first one, at least I think it was first, we played Villa at home in like 93, maybe. And I had a season ticket, and we were 3-0 down after about 25 minutes. And, you're just thinking, great, here we go, Spurs. Well, we got it back to 3-0. Klinsmann was playing, so it's that season, 94, 95 even. Okay. And so it would have been November 94. And we got it back to 3-0. And then Dean Saunders got the winner for Villa in the last minute, right in front of me. Right? I just sat in the Paxton Road end. And, I remember thinking, what the... because, we'd done so well to get back to 3-0. If anyone's going to win, we are... And Dean Saunders scored right in front of me. That was a gut punch. And the second one would have been later in that season because I went to the Cup semi at Leeds. And I just thought, my naive teenage self, I just thought, our name's on the Cup. We beat Liverpool in the quarterfinal. I went to that. I was the best day ever for a 16-year-old. I loved that away game. So I was 7 o'clock, White Hart Lane, up on the coach to get to Leeds. And we were abysmal. And Nevercott played left back, and I mean that journey home was basically when I decided Spurs are never doing this to me again. So as much as we've lost our fair share of games since then, I like to think I can remain relatively calm because I refuse to have them ruin what was the rest of that day and probably the rest of that week because it would have been I don't know, but so yeah. That's probably the last time Spurs. I mean, not the last time they may be grumpy because I'm generally grumpy. I'm a Spurs fan, but that's the one where I was like, I can't allow myself to be as involved.
So some fun facts for you. That I was at that Leeds game, and Ellen Road. We only had one stand, and Everton had the other three stands, which was pretty unfair. And Ellen Road literally stank of horse shit. the whole time I was sat in that stadium. And then the other fun fact, I believe, about your first ever game, which was Forest away in the '87 season, I think the legendary Vinny Samways made his debut for Tottenham that day.
He did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. He did. Yeah.
So I was fortunate on my first Spurs game to have Bill Nick managing the team because the general had a family bereavement. You had Vinny Samways in your first game. I don't mean to be smug, but I think I was better off. Sorry about that. But there we go. Well, thank you for that. So a point of housekeeping. Good point from Kerry, who did miss the instant reaction show last week because she was watching Celebrity Traitors. Is that this is the new time because the clocks are changing in Europe over the weekend, and so Sydney's now 11 hours ahead. So this is 6:30 in the morning. So we will be doing this 7:30 on a Monday night until the clocks change. So tonight, what are we going to be doing? We're going to be talking about our first visits to the Hill Dickinson Stadium, or as the locals call it, the Hill Dickey Stadium. We're going to preview the Geordies away in the Carabao Cup. We are paying tribute to the birthday boy, Glenn Hoddle, who is, I think, 68 today in the UK. And of course, if we've got time, reasons to be cheerful as well. If you've got any questions for the panel, if you've got, hang on a second. Kerry's happy. As long as Kerry's happy, then we're fine. Keith is late. We may have bamboozled him with the news side because he likes to walk the dogs. Any questions? If you want to subscribe to the channel, likes, etc., etc. These are all the things as a host I meant to say. If you could please do that, that would be great. But let's get stuck into the game that we had against Everton. And time on a tradition, we'll kick off with the team that was picked. Hopefully the graphic is big enough for everyone's eyes at home and your eyes as well. I'm going to turn it to you, HG. What were your thoughts on the team that was picked?
You know what I'm going to say. My heart sank when I saw number 22 starting.
Well, that's called a fishing rod, mate. Carry on.
Yeah, should we just call him Boris, the worst right winger since the man himself? Yeah, so I wasn't massively impressed. I mean, I think a lot of people thought he was going to play left wing, given the fact that Kudus had pretty much played right wing every game, and Simons, we all know, is probably better in the middle. But as you see, what we can see in front of us is how it was. Outside of that, I guess I was quite happy to see Kolo Muani start. I didn't think he would, but I'm not so upset he did, and the rest of it kind of picks itself. So it wasn't horrific, but I didn't look at it and think, yes, this lot are going to be up for it when it's a wet Sunday afternoon in Liverpool.
And Connor, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, similar. I think everyone was worried it was going to be Johnson on the left, as HG said, and I mean he's useless on the right, but he's even worse on the left. So I think that was slight concern. Obviously, the hot topic at the minute is Bentancur and Paolini are playing together, isn't it, amongst the fan base, and why that doesn't work. But I think away from home that concerned me less, to be honest. And we'll come on to the performances, but I thought Bentancur, to be fair to him, had a pretty stellar game considering all of the flack that he's got recently. And yeah, as HG said, I was delighted to see Muani starting. I also didn't think he would start yet, so I weren't sure whether he'd be quite ready. But I mean, a half-fit Muani is a huge improvement on Richarlison. So was very happy to see him starting, and yeah, I think he showed a bit as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he continues to develop. So yeah, I think it was. Yeah, people have said that they want Frank to show his adaptability because that was one of the main reasons he was hired, and I think he did. I think he did tweak things at the weekend. I think, although it's showing here, Kudus playing in the middle, that Kudus was drifting out to the right a fair amount with Johnson, so it was almost like a doubling up of on that right flank, and so. And certainly the shape seemed a bit different. I think in build up, Porro was doing a lot of deep passing. Spence was marauding up the wing a bit more. So yeah, it was fine. I think that we got 10. People are forgetting we've got 10. And I don't want to use injuries as an excuse because it's not an excuse, but we have got 9 or 10 players missing, right, for who could be in contention. So I think this is about as good as it can get, given that.
I was trying to think of a crap metaphor or something that drifts over to the right a lot. and I couldn't think of one. But I thought so. Kudos. It was felt at times that we had Porro, Johnson, and Kudos all on the right, and I felt that it didn't quite. They got in each other's way. Did you think that, HG?
I did.
Kudos
I
and
mean,
Johnson.
I feel like the funniest thing for the first 10 minutes, we weren't really sure what was going on. But I do remember
Yes.
that, everyone that I know that even rates Brennan Johnson a little bit, they all be like, look, if he's good at finishing, he needs to be up top. And so to watch him telling Kudus to get away from the right-hand side and stay in the middle when almost every Spurs fan I know would wish it was the other way around. Like if Johnson's going to do anything, at least let it be close to goal where it might be useful. I guess I'm a bit frustrated with Porro, not because of how he's playing, because I think he's doing perfectly well for what he's being asked to do, but we lose a lot. I would much rather see him crossing a ball from out wide than lumping it down the line, as Connor talked about, because that's kind of what we did a lot. And maybe Kudus can bring it down, and maybe Johnson can be a nuisance. But when you've got someone with the ability he does, I sometimes feel as if Jed Spence starts further up the pitch than Porro does. And I would much rather it be the other way around. Like, I get that, yesterday Spence was basically our left-sided outlet because Simons was always wanting to cut inside. And if Siemens did that, then we didn't have anyone really on the outside apart from Spence who could be there. But I feel like whatever 11 is being picked right now, we still haven't got the balance right. And that's, I guess it isn't concerning because we're winning anyway, but it is concerning because I'd like to think that whatever 11 we have out there actually look like they're a decent side with balance, not just left and right, but also between defense and attack.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, what were your thoughts on? So Simons was moved out to the left, which I was surprised about. I mean, what did you think of his performance?
Well, look, I think Gibbo is probably reveling at the moment because of his prediction a couple of weeks ago, Dave, that Simmons is not gonna set the world alight, and he hasn't yet, right? And I think it's quite clear that he is acclimatizing and getting used to Premier League football in a similar way to Florian Wirtz at Liverpool, right? I think both of them is a very similar-ish story that with both of them, they're not quite up to it yet. I think the other thing is, to be fair to Simmons, I think we don't necessarily play a way or a system that is really getting the most out of our number 10 either. A lot of our ball is progressed wide. It's basically Porro passing to Kudus, hoping Kudus can create a bit of magic, which then leads to a set piece, which we inevitably score from. Seems to be our sort of way of playing at the moment with the players that are missing, and obviously that is partly because of who we've got missing, and partly because Frank's been in the job 2 minutes, right? But yeah, look, I thought he was terrible first half, to be honest. Simmons, again, I'll be honest, and I do think he's going to come good. I think he's a super talent, and I think he will come good. But you've got to call a spade a spade. I think he was terrible in that first half. Funnily enough, I did actually think he started to improve in the second half, and then he was obviously taken off on 60 minutes or so. But yeah,
he didn't look happy. He didn't look happy about, did he, when he got substituted?
No, and I don't know whether that's sometimes I think fans read a lot into reactions when players get taken off, as if they're massively fucked off at the manager or whatever taking them off. I think sometimes it can just be they're actually frustrated at their own performance and the way that they're playing as well, and that can reflect in the way that they react. But it could also have been maybe he felt he was starting to come into the game, as I say, and then was taken off. But yeah, I mean, overall he was pretty poor, I thought.
Now, HG, I do distinctly remember when we did a live watch along at the Hong Kong Football Festival of Fun. I think we had signed Simmons, or we were going to sign him, and you have expressed doubts to me about him. Are you on the Gibbo bandwagon here, who says he's overhyped?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I suspect he's overhyped just because he plays a lot for the Dutch national team, and it's not like they're short of players. I mean, but I know enough Dutch people to know that there's a lot of Dutch people that don't really think he should be starting, and he's not really done it for the national team as much as they think he should have. Like Koeman seems to, like him a lot and play him a lot, even if there are other players that could be doing it. And the same kind of fell Van der Ven for the national team too. Like for a long time, he just wasn't really getting a looking, and it's only really been this season that he's starting to play and start for them. So I just think with Siemens, I wasn't expecting a great deal, and I think a lot of Spurs fans, we recognise that with Madison out and Kulusevski out, there was this like, we need a 10, and we want him to be that guy because he's the one we've got. I still don't think the way that we play really suits him, even if he was a 10, given the fact that apparently we focused on defence so much. He's got no one really in front of him to pass to. There aren't any runners from deep, like the type of thing that you would expect him or a number 10, any number 10, to need to look good. He just hasn't had, right? There haven't really been runners from deep. There certainly hasn't been a great deal to his left when he has played in the middle. And like that's not against Odebeer. I just think that, Simons is older than Odebeer. Odebeer is 20. And it just, when he has had the chance to put people in, he hasn't done it, which doesn't help. And so I feel like the things that Simons is now being remembered for are the things, like the opportunities he's had that he's fluffed, rather than the, wanting to get involved and all the things that you want to see. Is that when he has had the chance to really make a difference and really set up chances, he's messed them up quite badly. And the same happened yesterday at Everton. At least one time he had a chance to put the ball through and somehow managed to fluff it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that there was one little nice interchange of play between Muani and Simons. I can't remember if it was the first half or the second half.
It was the first half. I think that's the thing I'm remembering. Like Muani just, kind of flicked it to the side and Simons was through. I don't know who it would have been, but he must have had someone to his left as he's running towards goal, and he had the choice to either take it himself and shoot from distance or to try and put the player through. And neither happened, right? And even though I think we probably would have been 1-0 up at that time, I don't think we'd scored the second. You look at those moments and you think, hey, at least get something on target, at least make the keeper work. Like, we're in a decent position for once. You don't have your back to goal. You're not being crowded out by defensive midfielders. Like, this is what you're paid for. And it hasn't really resulted in anything that you would say was average. It's been worse than that.
And before we get into the goals, Connor, what did you think of Muani?
Yeah, look, I think he's a footballer for a start, which is an improvement.
That is a good start.
Yeah, and look, I think he's quite clearly building up to match sharpness, right, and fitness. But I've seen enough already from his couple of cameos. What's he done? Sort of 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and now 60 or something, right? To see that he's going to have more about him than Richarlison has got, in terms of his contribution to general play, movement off the ball, being a target man, being able to hold the ball up better and not having the ball turned over straight away. So, I think it's going to be interesting with him. I think somewhat it depends on how much he wants it. I think with Muani, I think he's quite clearly more talented than, as I say, what else we've got available there, which is Richarlison or Tell, as it stands, and even John, and even Solanke. I think still there's a lot of questions unanswered with Solanke, right? When he comes back, if he comes back at any sort of sharpness. So yeah, I like Muani. I think he's going to offer us something, and I think that HG touched on it earlier, and he's right. I think in a lot of these games, the balance hasn't quite been there, and it's almost credit. I credit Frank though in terms of still getting us results when we all know there's glaring issues with the squad and team, and some of that is injury related, which would help, but a lot of it is also because we didn't sign a top left winger in the summer, for example, and so whoever you put out on the left feels like a square peg in a round hole a little bit, or someone who's not ready. So your balance is naturally off because of that. But yeah, I think with Muani, I think Muani will be decent. But how decent he is, I think is still unanswered. But I think he'll be decent.
I mean, I enjoyed the novelty value of a striker who played off the last man, who held up the ball, who was a physical presence up top, because we haven't had that since Solanke has been in the team, and obviously Solanke's been out so far all season. Right now, I think probably you would imagine that he's a better player than Solanke, right? You would also imagine that is he in the French squad? Because
Not right now.
he's
He
not
isn't
right
now, but he has been. Yeah.
No, he has been, and I don't know how many spaces there would be for him up top in that squad because obviously they're an extremely good team with extremely good players. But he has got the World Cup carrot dangled in front of him to give him the motivation. So, and he also needs to get his career back on track to a certain extent because he was great at Eintracht Frankfurt. PSG spent a lot of money on him, and it didn't quite work out. And then at Juve, he was there from January, and he did well at Juve. And I think he was hoping for the move to Juve. So I think there's a lot. There's stuff for him to be motivated about. As you said, it's a question of him wanting to do it. But I just did enjoy the fact that we had someone who the ball stuck up top with him. HG.
I mean, all I want to do is see him smile because it looks like it would take a lot for that to happen. I rate him a lot. I mean, like I think I've said on plenty of shows that my best mate, or one of my best mates, is a massive Eintracht fan, and so I've been to watch Eintracht with him. I went to see.
Yeah.
I've not seen Muani live, but I've watched a lot of games of them when he was there, and like he does, he has more talent than all of our other strikers. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah,
but I think that he needs, as you said, he needs to find a home somewhere where he's actually really wanted. Juventus might have wanted him, but they couldn't afford it because they couldn't get rid of Vlahovic. And yeah, like he's had the chance to come to Spurs before, and he's turned it down a couple of times. So
yeah,
it did feel a bit like a marriage of convenience where we were like, look, we would still really like you, and he was like, it's this or nothing. I suppose I'd better take this. So I'm hoping that the fact that London is only a few hours away from France on the train, it's not as if it's that difficult to get to, and that he will find a home at Spurs. I don't quite know what it would take for that to happen, but PSG don't want him, and a lot of teams can't afford him. So if we were able to say, right, we've got the revenue, we've got the resources to keep you at the club for the next 2 or 3 seasons, we might see that. But we've got to convince him, and I think that might become more difficult. But I certainly think he's the best striker we've got. I didn't love him yesterday, if I'm honest. I didn't think he was amazing. I thought he showed more at Monaco when he came on than he did yesterday. However, the fact that he seems to be the one with the shirt now, great. Let's play him. Let's see what he can really do, and hopefully put players around him where he can, really, kind of bond with. We've got French-speaking players down the left. Audebert and Tell. Hopefully, the 3 of them can get on. Mm-hmm. So there are reasons to be cheerful, but I really would like to see him stay, and I think he could stay long term, but a lot of it will depend on the next 3 or 4 months.
So the 2 shocking revelations so far tonight, ladies and gentlemen watching at home. Muani is a footballer, and it's not that difficult to get from London to France on a train for about 2 hours. So stay tuned for more revelations. So let's get into the goals. It's a bit. Obviously the set piece goals. So the first goal, Bentancur's shoulder assisted, and Van der Ven put it home. Connor, a word about Kudos's corner. We're used to Tottenham corners not being the near post. This has been a revelation of a season for that.
Yeah, and we all know that set pieces aren't that important, right? But I think with you're right. We've had a number of technically gifted players not able to deliver a corner over many years, right? Eriksen is obviously the prime one that everyone goes to, but even before that, I remember Modric often hitting the first man from corners, and we've had a number, and even in recent times, at times with Maddison and Porro. we all got frustrated at their corners. But I mean, it's quite clear we've done a huge amount of work on set pieces, both attacking, which has been a massive improvement, but also defensively, we've only conceded one, I believe, from a set piece. So, I think that's a vast improvement. The other thing that you're right, the delivery is spot on, but also I think the thing that I took from this game and recent games is I always had this thing with Van der Ven that he wasn't that great in the air, considering he was 6'4", and he should be able to score more. And actually, Romero was better in the air than him and more of a threat from set pieces. And so to see Van der Ven with those two chances, obviously that the first one was mostly created by Bentancur, to be fair. But to out-strengthen Pickford for the second, I think that was very impressive. And obviously, it just seems to be the way the Premier League is going. I think I read that 20% of goals in the Premier League this year have been scored from corners, right? Which is very high. So it's important to maximise these set pieces, and we certainly are.
Yeah, and then just moving it along because I'm conscious of time and we want to talk about other stuff as well. But so I mean, HG, obviously Everton equalised and it was disallowed straight after. I mean, it's an old moan about VAR, but if you've got someone sat somewhere who's looking at the screen and the decision's been moved to him, and then he gives it back to the referee, what is the point of the bloke sitting in his porter cabin with his flask looking at the screen?
To tell the ref that there are two people who might have been interfering and that he should make that call. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, if it's a foul, it's a foul. The idea that it's somehow subjective and the VAR ref thinks it's a foul, but he doesn't want to make that decision himself, so he's going to tell the ref to go and have a look and say, hey, this thing I think is a foul. Do you think it's a foul too? It's all a bit, decisions by committee. And I'm saying this not because I'm a Spurs fan, but I do think it's a foul. I don't think the two of them disrupted Vicario that much, if I'm honest. I don't think the fact that they are offside really matters too much, if I'm honest. But to me, both of them had no interest in doing anything but making life more difficult for Vicario, and that to me should be a foul. Just the very thought of thinking, right, I'm going to go and stand there and have no interest in getting towards the ball myself. I just want to stop someone else from doing it. That to me should be a foul every day of the week. So we don't see that very often. And to be honest, I was surprised it was disallowed, but I'm glad it was. And I hope that they continue because, I know David Moyes came out and said that he thought it was a foul and he's okay with the decision. But if I'd have been Everton, I'd have been saying that happens in loads of other games and nothing is done because Vicario wasn't really impeded that much. It was even if they hadn't have stood there, I don't think he'd have saved it because it was 5 yards out and was going at some rate of knots. I don't think he'd have got anywhere near it otherwise. But what do I care? Because it did work in our favour this time. But it's still a grey area, and I really hate it when any team does this. But when they throw players who have no interest in actually going for the ball and they just want to stop someone else, that should be a foul every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit rugby, isn't it? When they're what they're trying to do to the keeper, I mean, on the subject of Vicario, I mean, we might talk about him now. I mean, the second half when he made that save, someone said it was like the Gordon Banks Pele save from the 1970 World Cup, which I'm sure the two of you would well remember. And just to make it clear, it was a year before I was born, before I get the usual joke back at me. I think with Vicario, I mean, look, my always criticisms of him are, one, he's shit on crosses, doesn't dominate the box. Two, he doesn't have a calm demeanour. Three, although he's a great shot stopper, his habit of palming the ball back into the pathway of the player, as we saw with Leeds, and he's had a lot of criticism of that. In the last two games, so the Everton game and the Monaco game, I thought that he has eradicated those faults in his game, and he's had his best two games for a while. Now, Connor, I think you were at the Grumpy Old Spurs transfer committee that was convened over the summer, and we said sell Vicario. Are you regretting that recommendation now, Connor?
No, I agree with what you just said. I think the last two games have been outstanding, right? I think
Yeah,
there's no debate in that. Particularly Monaco, and then even against Everton. I mean, he
yeah,
was outstanding plus against against Monaco, and then
yeah.
against Everton, he was also outstanding. So I think he's had two brilliant games. I think, yeah, my criticisms of him are similar to yours. I also think his distribution is really bad. So,
Yeah.
and I don't think he's good enough with his feet. Um, I think I think in both of these games, there's been a little bit less of him having to play the ball short with his feet. It seems. I don't know whether that's been an intentional tweak or just something that I've picked up mistakenly. But I wonder whether that has just made him calm down more generally because he's not had to worry about, you know, playing the ball short with his feet. And look, if you want a goalkeeper who needs to make a save from 6 yards and only has a nanosecond to think about it, he's as good as any, right? Those reaction saves that he can make um,
Mm-hmm.
are top. But I think, yeah, your criticisms are fair, and I do still think I still of the view, unless he continues to play like this for a lot more than two games, that ultimately
Yeah.
we will need to upgrade him if we really want to win leagues and Champions Leagues, as is the Lewis family's ambition.
Our new owners, the Lewis
And
family.
their
Don't
owners.
forget, new era. Okay, it's a new era. Did anyone see that picture of our ex-chairman at the El Clasico? He looked a little bit as forlorn as Droopy the dog.
Special
I'm afraid
relationship,
to say.
Dave. That's the special relationship. Tickets to any game when he wants it.
Is that clause 15.7 of the special relationship agreement? If you are no longer the chairman of the club, you can come to El Clasico and sit in the director. I missed that one, but anyway, nice to see Dan out and about. It's important. Just wrapping up the game. So obviously, our Brazilian number 9 came on as sub with Bergval, and still had time to miss. He had that missed opportunity. Should he have put that away, HG, or was he paying tribute to the Hill Dickey Stadium?
I mean, yeah, he should have scored once he was there. I mean, you just got to get it past the keeper. I've seen people say that he should have placed it. He obviously went for power. Personally, in that situation, I actually don't mind going for power because as long as you don't hit the keeper, it's going in, right? Like if you place it, the keeper might have some time to make the save. But I've seen plenty of goals where it's just been blasted and it hasn't hit enough of the keeper to go wide. It still goes in. But yeah, like having helped make the chance just by being a willing runner, he should have scored. There's no doubt about it. But it's when you're 2-0 up, you don't mind so much. But yeah, he should have scored.
And wrapping it up, so we had the Saar goal, which, to be fair, was a good cushioned header by Richie.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Connor, you're a massive social media influencer. You know, you're on many YouTubes and podcasts and things like that. What did you think of the commentary that people had about Saar's muted goal celebration, particularly Jamie O'Hara, who said it's clearly he's unhappy with what's going on at the club?
Well, I think first of all we need a petition to remove Jamie O'Hara as the Spurs representative on Sky Sports, Talk Sport, etc. because he's not doing us any favours. But maybe that's my next move, Dave, after all of these podcasts. But I think look, this
Hang
is
on,
again.
can I just interrupt you there, Connor? It's not Connor. Sorry to interrupt you. You will have to move Jamie O'Hara from Talksport plus Mido and Ramon Vega. So good luck with that one.
And then you'll be ringing into me, Dave, as well. But no, there is. I think that it comes back to my point about when people read into when players get taken off. It's a similar point, you know. I think sometimes we create these issues without really knowing, and it now seems that the actual story is that Saar was upset about that tragic case with the young footballer, right, who's a friend of his or whatever. So, you know, I think we can read a lot into these scenarios sometimes, and no one really knows, do they? And yeah, I think, you know, it might not be that either, right? And it might actually be that he's pissed off, but who knows? I think all you can do as a footballer is if you're not getting picked, when you are getting picked, or being brought on, make sure you show a reason why you should be playing.
So, in summaries, go on. Sorry, go on. Actually,
you wonder if Jamie O'Hara would have been happier had Sarr gone and run and like stood right in Thomas Frank's face and been like, "See, should have been me." Would that have been better? You know, with that the showing passion and all that nonsense that O'Hara almost certainly spouts. But yeah, like I didn't even look at it when it was happening. I was just happy that we'd scored. Game was done. Spurs ain't going to play that. And so like I don't remember, like I remember Van der Ven's celebration for the second because I watched that one. But the first one, I've no idea what happened. The third one, I've no idea what happened. I didn't care. How the celebration police again are striking about things that just don't matter.
So in summary, Jamie O'Hara talks a load of old bollocks.
Yeah, which is why he's paid a lot of money to do so.
There we go. Moving on. Now, you know, there's been a lot of talk in the Twitter sphere that, you know, Frank's got to go, we're boring and all this bollocks, sorry. But, you know, just to quote him, and he's very happy to set pieces, and a clean sheet mentality is a good foundation. It's a very Frank thing to say, isn't it? We need to do more, but it's an inexperienced Champions League squad. So to go every 3 or 4 days and keep the energy and focus showed a lot about the mentality. So HG, one of the objections to Frank coming into our, you know, glorious club that competes on multi competitions for a number of years is that he's never had to deal with a European campaign and things like that. How do you think Thomas is going so far, HG?
Oh gosh, I am very happy with the results. There is a but coming. I am not happy with what I've seen from us. I know we've got injuries, but it still feels like 11 individuals who care a lot. But I felt like we had 11 individuals who cared a lot last season. At some point, we have to look like a team, and we haven't really. So, yeah, I'm very happy that we're third. No doubt about it. You can't complain about that. You really can't. But there have been a number of games that we got results where we probably shouldn't have done. We've also had a couple of results go against us that maybe we shouldn't have done. But I wish that we had seen more performances like the one that we had right at the start against PSG, because that felt like a team performance. Everyone working together to be something better than they are. And I haven't seen that since. I still feel like we are a team that really isn't as good as the sum of its parts, and that worries me.
Nice segue that, HG, for saying that we're third. Excuse me. So, Connor, looking at this table at the moment, don't worry about the fact that we can't see Arsenal nor Bournemouth's points tallies unless you have them to hand.
Yeah, Bournemouth 18, Arsenal 22, I think.
Thank you very much, Connor. You are the numbers man. That's what amongst the many things you bring to this show, that you are the numbers man. So thank you for that. So far this season, a lot of commentary is that the Premier League resembles Pulis ball, right? And so where we are at the moment, one of the old cliches is we can tell where you are after 10 games, right? And we all know what's coming up on the weekend, which is the Chelsea. So this is where we are at the moment. I think, sadly, I think the Gooners are going to win it this season. Sorry, but I just do. Because if I look at Liverpool of imploding, I can't see, I know it's famous last words, I can't see Sunderland staying up there for the whole season. And Man United are having a mini renaissance at the moment. Do you think so far, Connor, this is what's known as a bit of a funny season where everyone's treading over each other, tripping up?
Yeah, I think there is there's a lot of commentary obviously about how boring we are, which I think, you know, you just mentioned them. The team that sits top of the league are more boring than us to watch because they don't actually ever look like conceding, hence why they're going to. I agree with you, Dave. I think they're unfortunately going to win the league comfortably as well. Not only win it, I think they're going to win it by at least 10 points.
Yeah.
Because they don't concede chances, let alone goals. I think they've had 8 shots on target or something in the 9 games against them. So I think unless some ridiculous injury crisis or something, I think they're going to walk the league. And I think there's this. It's that classic thing of football going in cycles, right? And I think right now.
Have you frozen or have I frozen?
No, I think he's frozen.
He has frozen. He is so bored by the Premier League. He's now frozen. And we may never. There we go. Look at that. Anyway, do you think the Premier League XG has become homogenized and boring?
I mean, no. I think that when it comes to the bigger games, yes. Right? Like, I don't think you can look at that table and think, hey, Bournemouth are second. They're not boring. And Sunderland are fourth. And I mean, I've barely watched them, but I don't suspect they've done it by defending. I don't think they have. So it's just different. And the unfortunate thing about this year is that of the teams that you would expect to challenge, only one of them really strengthened in the summer. And that was unfortunately the lot down the road. Liverpool bought a lot of new players in. I believe they've got a deeper squad, but the team isn't as good, and you've seen that. They've lost 4 games in a row. They only lost 4 games all of last season in the league, and a couple of those were after they won the thing. So it is unfortunate. I never really understood what City have been up to for the last few years. The last 2 leagues they won felt like it was mostly because Arsenal weren't very good and didn't have enough to get over the line. So it's unfortunate, but I think that every season for the last 2 or 3 years we've been hoping that one team would be enough to stop that lot, and we've been lucky that it's happened. It's. I don't know if I think that the league is more boring now. I don't believe that. It's just there's been a lot of focus on the things that really weren't focused on that much. People have seen that Arsenal have been able to bend the rules a little bit to get goals given, and they've done everything that I said earlier on tonight that I really didn't like when it came to set pieces. And other teams have thought, well, if they can do it, we should too. I mean, if you can bend the rules and it works in your favour, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be honest. There are some I think right now I'm less interested in watching the big games, right? Like the traditional games. Like if Chelsea play Man United, I don't really care, right? Because I think they're both pretty flawed, and the names aren't enough to get me watching. But I think next week it's Man City versus Bournemouth on Sky. I want to watch that because I want to see Bournemouth. I want to see them play the way that they have done. Like I watched that first game of the season thinking it was going to be a procession, and it wasn't. And Bournemouth are unbeaten since. So like, I feel like I'm just excited to see something different. And for most of the last 20 years, it's been the same 4 or 5 teams that have been there or thereabouts. And thankfully, it hasn't been Arsenal for a while. And it's just I don't know. I wish. I think we'd all like to see good football win the league, right? Like Liverpool played very good football last year. They had the strike force to win pretty much any game they could, and they did. Fair play to them. No one wants to see efficiency win games, right? They don't. And that's unfortunately where we are. Spurs have been efficient when it comes to scoring our chances. Our goalkeeper has been very good at saving chances. So we are where we are. I could sit here and say that I love the fact that I don't mind good defending, right? Like it's a shame that it's that lot that are doing it, but that's a massive part of the game. But the reason why Arsenal fans are so upset, and there are a lot of them are upset, like they're 4 points clear, 7 points clear of the champions already, and they're moaning that no one's giving them any credit. And the reason they're not getting any credit is because almost everyone, including every Spurs fan, thinks they're playing within themselves. And we'd like to see they could be more. Now it's awful. I don't want them to be more, right? Because I want them to lose every game 3-0. But there is that feeling that they're not, they're not really doing what they can, and maybe that's true of every big club. They've not really come out and played like we think they should be able to, and it's made the league, more competitive, but not better.
Welcome back, Connor.
Yeah, I don't know where I cut out. Sorry about that. My internet.
That's all right.
But, yeah, I was making the point that I think I do think the league has got more boring, but I don't think that's necessarily just about this focus on set piece or dark arts. I think there has also been a clear sort of transfer policy of a lot of clubs to target physicality or prioritize physicality and athleticism over technical ability. And, we spoke earlier about Wirtz and Simmons, two players who are struggling, very technically gifted players, but not physical. And you look at, Newcastle's midfield three is Guimaraes, Tonali, and Joe Linton. I'm not saying they haven't got technical ability, but they're all physical specimens as well, right? And Aston Villa, when they played against us, the midfield three they picked was Kamara, McGinn, and Onana. Which again is about imposing yourself physically. And I think there has been it's almost this football going back on itself. Everyone tried to play like Pep for a little while, and now it's sort of gone. And Bournemouth, who have been really impressive, I don't think Bournemouth don't dominate the ball in games that often, or they're not playing like the sort of possession-based football that Pep played. Their best stuff is about hitting teams direct with great transition with the likes of Semenyo, and it's entertaining to watch because when they do hit teams like that, it's really impressive. And similar with Palace, right? So I think there has just been this general trend, and I think with us the reflection is look, I think we all want to see us playing better football and creating more from open play, but I think right now we've just got to give it time. And I'd much rather us be in a situation where with 10 injuries, we're not really talking about them that much because we're still putting ourselves in the position to grind out results and not lose, right? I think that's impressive.
The big difference, we talk about all the injuries we had last season. We've got a similar amount now, but our squad is just deeper. Like this time last year, we were looking at playing. Werner was playing games, and Reguilon was on the bench, and they were out the door as far as Ange was concerned. Certainly Reguilon was. And right now, we're not playing people who are in that position. Like we're playing who's left. But I don't think you could look at Matisse Tel and be like, well, he was the one on the outs because he didn't make the Champions League squad, because he started a number of games recently in the league. He's not just been there to make up the numbers on the bench. So the fact we have a deeper squad is obviously helping. There's no doubt about that. And our injuries have not been. What was it last year? It felt like we were lucky to find 4 who could play in defence.
Yeah.
And right now, the injuries might be spread out a bit more throughout the squad. I don't know. It's just it's frustrating, but I really can't wait. Like if we ever get to a point where we have just 2 or 3 injuries, like you're going to see 2 or 3 names not be in the match day squad, like decent players. Like there might be 1 or 2 that we'd all sell tomorrow if we could, but I don't think any of them we would say are not ready or are not capable of being a useful part of the team. Yeah, like I say, the squad isn't deep enough. In what way? Like I'd love to see another actual left back, because I don't really think that Jed Spence is an answer there, even if he might do it for England. I'd like to see a bit more balance down the left hand side, but like people like Dragusin, who we signed for decent amount of money, who's captain of his country, clearly not a defender. Long term, I don't think he's got a future at Spurs because we've got other players. Or like if someone said to me tomorrow, okay, you let Dragusin go and you sign a left-sided defender for the same amount of money, I think we'd all be great with that, right? And that's assuming that Takai isn't that guy, and maybe he will be. He's not. He might not be left-footed, but maybe he will be that person. So we have so many options if all are fit. It's just making sure that those little niggles that seem to be happening to, maybe the same people, that we can handle it. But I think when it comes to depth of squad, I can think of probably 2 in the league that I would say are deeper than ours. But we don't have a great 11 yet. But when it comes to options, I think only Liverpool and Arsenal are ahead of us.
Right. Now, Connor mentioned Newcastle's midfield just a minute ago, which segues not very smoothly into quickly talking about the old Carabao Cup game. I think there's a bit of feedback from somebody on one of you two guys. I don't know. I hear my voice come back. But anyway, this is this was the Newcastle team that was in the League Cup against Bradford, I believe. Which was a certain change. I had Ramsdale in goal. They did no Kieran Trippier. They are the holders of the cup, of course. Their scenes were as exultant as ours when we won in Bilbao. It's a tough place to go. It's a very tricky draw. We want to win a domestic cup this season. HG, what kind of team do you think we're going to put out?
One with 3 or 4 changes from the one that played. I mean, I don't think we can sit here and say I'd like to see Tell play. But yeah, like I'd also like to see Kudus play, and is he going to play every game? Do you know what I mean? It's maybe Tell. Like if we went with that French front 3 and we said Tell, Odobert, and Kodamorani, you can kind of interchange with each other a bit. That might work really well. But yeah, like in midfield. Like I really rate Archie Gray. I'd like to see him play more often, and if that was at Bentancur's expense, so be it. But it is rough because you are, what do you do if you want to go and win the game? You play your best team, and you say, well, next midweek we've got Copenhagen. Maybe we can rest players there. Which do you think is more important? Given the fact that I'd like to see us win our home games in the Champions League, I kind of think that one is a bit more important. It's rough. But yeah, it'll be a decent side, and if Johnson's not in it, that's all I can ask for.
Connor, are you on for a Francophile French front 3 against the Newcastle?
I think we will need to make changes. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be one of those games that if we end up losing, which is obviously completely plausible given it's a really tough draw, there is going to be meltdowns galore again, and certain people popping out of the woodwork to let us know their views on Frank, even though it's a very difficult draw, right? And so, and a place, I don't know when we last won at St James's Park, but it feels like we always get battered at St James's Park, or certainly at least the times I've gone we have. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. I suspect they'll make some changes as per that team you just showed for the last game as well. I agree with HG. I think Kudus needs to have a rest. I think arguably you need to rest at least one of Paulina or Bentancur as well, because they're playing a lot of football. At the back, it's harder because Romero and Udogie are out, and so are Dragusin and Takai, and so unless he puts Archie Gray at fullback again, and poor Archie Gray's never getting the chance to actually shine in midfield, it's difficult to see what rotation you can do in defence. So, but yeah, look, I think it's a difficult game. I think the Carabao Cup's quite a difficult competition, right? Because unlike the FA Cup, the games are sort of just thrown in midweek, along with Europe around them as well. And so, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I to be honest, I'd be surprised if we get through it, given the players that we've got out, and therefore our lack of ability to rotate well. And given our record at St James's Park, I would be surprised if we get through. I think it would be a massive achievement to get through that game.
So, gentlemen, score predictions, Connor?
I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle.
HG?
I am hoping that we get a penalty shootout. Like we can get a
Kinski's
draw
in goal.
up there. Sorry?
And with Kinski in goal, because Vicario's not very good at penalties.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Kinski to start. I mean, if he doesn't start these games, then when is he going to? So, Yeah, like I'm a big fan of Spurs trying a three at the back with three centre backs. I know we don't really have the numbers to do it, but I think I would like to see that because I really believe that, weirdly enough, our biggest issue is that we don't have a striker or anyone near our central striker. That the central striker gets isolated too much, right? And we saw Kudus try to play almost as a two when we were out of possession yesterday. I'd like to see us try and do that a bit more when we're in possession. But yeah, like I know it's not going to happen, so I don't know why I always think that it should. I just would like to see us try. And if Archie Gray ends up playing as a left wing back where he's almost more in midfield, then great. Like we find a way to make it happen. But as Connor said, if we can get through, it doesn't matter, right? Like that's it. Play well, see what happens, and I'm going to go for us to lose on penalties. After all that, lose on penalties. It's the Spurs way.
What's your prediction, Dave?
Well, we got some feedback last week that we weren't grumpy enough after the Villa game. Well, someone said, "You're grumpy, old Spurs. You weren't that grumpy." So there's plenty of grumpiness about this Newcastle game. I think that I am envisaging a penalty shootout as well, actually. But I'm envisaging that Tell puts the winner away and banishes the Euro Super Cup, whatever competition that was, final. And he races towards the away end, which he can't because they're so high up in the sky. So he peers into the sky and salutes the travelling away fans. King Ski is a hero. We're going to go through on penalties.
It sounds crazy that this matters to me because it doesn't really matter. But we're going to be playing in yellow, right? Like, because we can't wear the white and we can't wear the black. Therefore, I got bad vibes about that yellow kit. I don't see that yellow kit being something that's going to live on in the memories of Spurs fans. So, yeah, despite the fact I chose a yellow background. So, I mean, who knows? But
I'm trying to remember famous performances in yellow. I point to you, HG, the Southampton 1995 Rocket Ronnie Rosenthal hat-trick that set up that Liverpool game that you referred to.
Yeah.
Any other great performances in yellow, Connor?
I mean, wasn't a tube of toothpaste winner at St James's Park in yellow?
Yeah,
yes.
Wasn't it?
Cutting inside. There have been his finest moment.
Yeah, there have been a few. Didn't we win? I mean, I think it's with us is that we go back to the 90s because they're the games we remember and they're the games we're more likely to have won. But yeah, I just got bad vibes about that yellow kit. It's quite nice, but I don't know. There's something about yellow and Spurs that makes me uneasy.
Well, speaking of famous moments in yellow in our history, nice segue again, HG. Thanks for that. It is, of course, Glenn Hoddle's birthday today. And he scored the winner in the 1982 FA Cup final when we were playing in yellow. Nice work there. Now, I appreciate it is you guys didn't get to see him play well before your time. But, Connor, did your dad wax lyrical to you about the Lord Hoddle?
He did, and you can see he's just commented God. So yes, he definitely he definitely did, and he likes to remind me often about how Hoddle used to be able to put a ball on a sixpence on shit pitches compared to the billiards tables that we have now. So yes, I've heard that story almost as much as I've heard the story of my dad's first game, which was Jimmy Greaves' debut, which I've heard him now say about 45,000 times, I think, to various Tottenham fans that he has met at games, etc. So yes, I've heard a lot about Hoddle and watched clips myself as well.
Well, my late father never ceased to stop telling me that Jimmy Greaves should still have played in the World Cup final, and it was Roger Hunt who should have been dropped, and Jeff Hurst still would have played. I must have heard that story at least every year, ever twice maybe. What was your HG? Obviously, Glenn Hoddle before your time. Did any family?
Yeah, I mean, this is it.
I'm being generous to your age.
Yeah, no, it was slightly before my time. There's no doubt about that. However, I'm a
Go on.
Harlow boy. That's where Glenn Hoddle grew up.
Ah, I forgot
So
about that.
my cousins went to school with the Hoddles. Not Glenn, the younger brother. Was it Carl? I think.
Carl. Yes.
My cousins went to school with Carl, like where. Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the name of the street. But yeah, his parents lived in Harlow when I was growing up. We all knew that was the Hoddle house, Altham Crescent, I think it was, something like that. So yeah, like my mum obviously grew up in Harlow, and she doesn't have a good word to say about Glenn Hoddle. She hates his guts, which is always a bit like whenever he does commentary, she is bemoaning. She would rather have the German nonsense I have to listen to than Glenn Hoddle. However, my first memory of Hoddle, because obviously, like, it's all highlights, right? But it's the 81 semi-final at Highbury against Wolves.
Yeah.
And he hits that pass that goes through for Garth Crooks to go on and score.
Yeah.
And I've seen maybe 10 passes better than that. In highlights or whatever, to put it where he put it, or it was like, half a step either side, the defender gets there first, right? I mean, it really was inch perfect. And yeah, if only we had a player like that now, someone who we all knew was capable of not just being good, but winning games by themselves, having the ability to do that. We've been spoiled for the last decade pretty much, but to have someone like that now would be good.
Well, I mean, since we started talking about Glenn Hoddle's birthday, we did drop about 5 viewers, but we've now gained another 3. And all those who dropped out, Philistines, is what I have to say. Glenn Hoddle was one of my childhood heroes growing up. And as I've said repeatedly on here, just probably like you've been told this, Connor, repeatedly by your old man, you used to get to the game early to see him do his warm-up, because he had the whole bag of tricks in the warm-up, and that was like entertainment in itself. A great player, absolutely loved him, and happy birthday. So let's finish off very quickly in time on the tradition on Grumpy Old Spurs. It's our feature that's called Reasons to be Cheerful. HD, we do this every week because we're grumpy, but we try and finish on reasons to be cheerful. And I'll throw this to Connor. He's back from Tenerife. He's sorted out the glitch in his Wi-Fi. And what's your reason to be cheerful this week, Connor?
Well, being back from Tenerife is definitely not one of them. But I think as relates to Tottenham, I think it's I think sitting third in the league, unbeaten in the Champions League, still in the Carabao Cup as it stands. We'll see how Wednesday goes. I think it's been a good start. I think it's been a very good start by Frank. I think obviously a vast improvement on what we had to watch last year. But still knowing that there's a lot of improvement, hopefully, to come. So I think it's a time to be positive, hopefully, for most fans, and as we start to see players come back from injury. We've got a tough, I think, before this international break is quite key, isn't it? Because we've got Newcastle Wednesday, we then have Chelsea and United in the league, and Copenhagen in the Champions League. I think if we can get through that period, and you're feeling not too scarred, I think that will set us up well as we come into Christmas. And I think I read today that Romero and Udogie are both back on the grass training now, so hopefully they'll be back for the Chelsea game at the weekend. So I think there's reasons to be positive, but hopefully with a lot more trajectory to come still.
HG.
Look, every Spurs fan I've ever known has always bemoaned that we are not something, right? We're always something. We're always short in some area, right? But I would like to be like, let's think about the things that we're not, that are actually what makes us so freaking cool, right? We are not glory hunters. We are not like Chelsea wankers. Like, there are so many things that we are not that we need to be proud of, right? These are reasons to be cheerful. I am not annoyed at the world, right? Everyone else can do that, but we don't need to do that. We don't need to be like that. So, yeah, reasons to be cheerful. Spurs-wise, Brennan Johnson's getting closer to being squad number 25. That's a reason for me to be cheerful. We are buying better players. We are weeding out those that aren't good enough. And yeah, the future's bright and all that nonsense. But yeah, like this is our floor, right? We are third in the league and we're rubbish. This is our floor. Imagine what can happen next. That is the reason to be cheerful.
Connor, I think what would you have to say about that? I think the HGs was probably the best reasons to be cheerful we've had so far on this show. What do you reckon? Particularly, we're not Chelsea wankers. Was my I'm like inspired. Do you know what I mean? I might just go out and run across the bridge and back again if my ankles weren't fucked. My reason to be cheerful this week is my reasons. My reason to be cheerful this week, and I think Connor knows where I'm heading off on this. And I just want to go. I want to go back to my crap AI just for 1 second, and we are going to finish off, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? I'm very happy with Thomas Frank and people who have been moaning this week about we're boring. He's got no other way of playing. No. Let's get rid of him. What a load of utter nonsense, right? I obviously had to fight on behalf of my fellow countryman Ange when it suited me. However, we've got an adult in the room as our first team coach, and he's got something about him, and we're giving him, and this is an opportunity to step up in his career, and I'm very happy we've appointed him. And so for all those people who this week have been moaning about him and the Monaco performance, we're boring. Yeah, I know we need to get better at home. My view on this is up yours. Sorry, immature, but there we go. That's my reason to be cheerful. We're on the Frank bus, and on that very immature middle finger at the age of 54 that I've given to those people who are not on the Frank train. There we go. We're going to round this off. HG, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you've been sufficient. I don't know if you've been made grumpier because you've been on this, or you at that level of grumpiness you've kept.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not dealing with 12-year-olds for a whole week, so I'm not sure. Grumpy is not on my horizon. But yeah, it's always good to be grumpy with you.
You've had quite a few years of being grumpy with me, I think. Is Connor? Thank you very much for coming on tonight. No other shows for you tonight, or is it or this week? Is it a quiet week for you?
No, quiet week. Yeah, thank you for having me. Good to be back on, and yeah, good to have the therapy sessions back, I suppose.
It's a pleasure, but we don't need to talk about your childhood, especially with your dad. Well, actually, we did touch on your childhood this week, and your dad's in the chat. Thanks to everybody who has watched us tonight. If you could like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies. It's always good if you can get our numbers up. All that's left for us to say is, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
This is a bit
Spurs.
That was smooth. Good night.